the Park Podcast, the Mars Park SGA's podcast series. My name is Carson, and I'm the senior representative here to answer all of your questions about Mars Park. On today's episode, we'll be interviewing teachers and students about the transition to virtual school. First up, we have Kate Bunden, senior representative with Ms. Schwippert and Mr. Baum.
Mrs. Schwippert, how difficult has it been to shift your curriculum to a completely new setting?
In general, it has been so difficult converting all of our lessons into more of a virtual learning situation. Also, the amount of time that it takes to link everything, to make sure Canvas is up to date, my lesson plans are on point, my assignments work has been incredible. Like, I have not spent so much time doing work than ever before. For science, obviously, or biology, obviously the hardest part has been trying to figure out labs and make, class interesting when we can't do these hands-on interactive lessons.
Wow, it sounds like a ton of extra time and effort. How about you, Mr. Baum? How has your transition to online curriculum been?
Hi, Kate. It's been fun getting to create some new resources for online school and getting to think about how we teach in new ways, but it has been pretty difficult shifting the curriculum to a completely online setting. That's because it takes a lot of time, and we've been staying up late, putting in long hours, getting everything online so that it's easy for the students to navigate.
I definitely have lots of respect for how much extra work you have to put in. My next question, Mrs. Schwippert, what do you miss most about in-person teaching at Mars Park?
What I miss most about teaching in person is actually, seeing kids' faces and smiles and being able to say good morning to everybody as they walk in. And I really enjoy having small conversations with my students during class, getting to know them, and also seeing my colleagues and talking to my colleagues, on our duties in between classes. And that's been something that I think we all really miss.
I definitely miss the in-person interactions too. Mr. Baum, what do you miss about teaching in person?
What I miss most about teaching in person at Myers Park is getting to see my colleagues and my students' faces every day and getting to have a direct connection with them. It's easier to make that connection in person than it is when you're just looking at boxes on a Zoom screen, even though I still try to make that connection.
I miss your face too, Mr. Baum. Up next, what are some upsides to online teaching?
Some upsides to teaching online is that I've worn sneakers every single day. Just the dress code's been kind of nice, and also I can take my dog on a quick walk at lunch if I want. So I've enjoyed being at home. I really have.
Mr. Baum, what are some upsides you have found while online teaching?
Some upsides to online teaching are we get to have students work more on their own schedule. We don't have to drive into school in the morning and sit in that long line of traffic or come in and wake up as early because we're just waking up in time to teach online. And I think with students too, they appreciate getting to wake up in time and then being present for learning online.
That morning traffic was always tedious, but I'm so glad you have found some positive parts to virtual school. It's so important to remember the good things. Final question, how do you stay positive while not being able to teach in a classroom setting?
I've been trying to send small assignments where I'll ask students what I can do to make them feel better, or try to send a quick message to a student on Remind to get to know them. Getting that feedback, whether it's positive or even constructive, has been very good in order for me to maintain a positive attitude throughout. I also have been blessed to have a great group of kids, and I have great attendance in my classes, and so knowing that they're at home and safe and trying to do work has also been a really positive thing as a teacher, where I know students are really trying to do their best during this time too.
I think it's so awesome how much you care about your students and their engagement, even while online school. Mr. Baum, what about you?
I stay positive, even though I'm not able to teach in class, by thinking about some of the other benefits that I get to do. Like, since the coronavirus pandemic started, I have been walking through neighborhoods every day that I never used to walk through, because I'd walk around at school all day. I'd be kind of tired when I get home. So being able to shift my focus from being at school all day to teaching school for part of the day and then doing other things like walking around outside and reading a book, that has been a positive for me to kind of stay positive and healthy in the online setting.
Long walks are so good for clearing the mind, and reading is also a great way to unwind after virtual school. Those were all great answers. Thank you both so much for joining me today, and thank you for everything you are doing to keep students learning. Up next, we have sophomore representative Paige Bunnan interviewing senior Nate Rainey. Thanks, Kate. Nate Rainey is a senior on the tennis team, who also participates in Odyssey of the Mind and French Club. Nate, my first question is, what are the challenges of virtual school?
Some of the challenges of virtual school for me are distractions, like entertainment like TV is so close by and usually weighs on my mind a little bit during school. Another challenge is structure, because there's a little bit less structure with virtual school. Makes it a little bit more difficult for me to learn. And the last challenge is motivation, because when the teacher's not there in person motivating you to learn, it's a lot harder to motivate yourself.
I know full well that distractions can be a challenge in virtual school. It can definitely be hard to focus. My next question is, what do you enjoy about virtual school?
I do enjoy sleeping in an extra hour for virtual school, but I also enjoy the feeling of independence, especially for me as a senior, likely going to college next year. Feeling independent is more like what it's going to be next year in college.
It's cool how you're finding independence in preparation for college. That's super important. My final question is, what do you miss about in-person school and what don't you miss?
I miss being with other people, about being in school with people next to me, and learning with people is helpful for me. I would say I don't miss having lunch super early in school, especially if you've ever had first lunch. You know that eating lunch at 10:30 is never a good thing.
Having the ability to form my own lunch schedule is a plus for sure. Thank you so much for answering my questions. Finally, let's head over to my fellow sophomore representative, Ann Gray, who will be interviewing Ava Ewert.
Thanks, Paige. Ava Ewert is a sophomore on the field hockey team. Ava, my first question is, how has your mental health been during the transition into virtual school?
My mental health when transitioning into virtual school has been a little difficult because it's hard to focus when you're staring at a screen all day, and also trying to listen to your teachers without getting distracted with background noises and people talking in your house.
It can definitely be hard to stay focused on a screen all day. So what are some pros and cons that you have found during the online learning?
So some pros and cons of online school. First, some pros of online school is having asynchronous time to do extra work or finish up work. Also, not waking up super early is good. And also having time to hang out with friends after school or do school with friends. So then, some cons of online school is it's very hard to motivate yourself to do work most of the time, because when we have these asynchronous times, you usually just want to go to bed.
I agree, it can be very tough to stay motivated in online school. What do you miss about in-person school? What don't you miss?
What I miss about school in person is seeing new friends in your classes and interacting with them. What I don't really miss is just waking up early.
Waking up a little later is nice for sure. Thank you so much for answering my questions, Ava. Now back to you, Carson.
Online school can make it tough to find motivation and structure. so it's definitely important to focus on the positive things. And that's going to conclude this week's episode. Thank you to all of our participants. In order to stay updated with all things Mars Park, it is important to follow at Mars Park High School and at MPHS_SGA on Instagram. Also, sign up for the Mustang Express email chain to receive important information about Mars Park. You can subscribe to the MPHS PTSO website. If you have any questions you'd like to add to the podcast, you can DM either Instagram account. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another MPHS Student Government Podcast episode. We look forward to having you. Bye.